Dear Mr. Force, this is necessary information for your ancestor playthrough. Amen, brother.
True story.
Towards something a little more healthy or productive. Nah, you know what? That's pretty dope, actually.
Speaking
I'm happy
of
with
smoking.
that. Flashback to 1954. A chimp named Congo was born in the London Zoo. Little did anybody know, this ape was a prodigy. Out of curiosity, one of his zookeepers, named Desmond Morris, decided to give Congo a pencil and a piece of cardboard to see what he'd do. Almost immediately, he started drawing some rudimentary lines and shapes. Morris was like, whoa, and decided to let him try painting on for size. And what he saw was incredible. Congo created these beautiful renderings with a blend of realism.
What? No monkey did these paintings. It's true. I hate when they say true stories about chimps and then they add these pictures that are clearly not drawn by that chimp.
And self-expression that would make even the great masters stare in awe.
It's not true. What was his name? Congo? Desmond Morris. Chimp painting.
Welcome to Uganda. Welcome to Uganda.
This is what he actually fucking painted. I swear to God, if these idiots.
What he'd do. Almost immediately, he started drawing some rudimentary lines and shapes. Morris was like, whoa.
I mean, it's not much different from all the other.
And decided to let him try painting on for size. And what he saw was
what is the word I'm looking for? Jesus Christ.
Incredible. Congo created
Abstract.
these beautiful renderings with a blend of realism and self-expression that would make even the great masters stare in awe. Nah, just fucking with you, they're garbage. But for a non-human, there's still something to be appreciated here. Congo had at least a very basic sense of composition. Like, you can see there's some balance to the images. Matter of fact, when his handler would make shapes on one side of the page, Congo would deliberately mark up the other side to maintain some kind of symmetry. He also had an artist's sense of self-entitlement, because whenever his owner tried to take away a picture before Congo thought it was finished, he'd literally go apeshit, all throwing a fit and screaming till they gave it back. But hey, painting done by a chimp. You know who likes pointless novelties like that? The incredibly rich. In 2005, 3 of Congo's paintings were up for auction next to works by 2 obscure little artists known as Andy Warhol and Pierre-Auguste Renoir. And while the 2 actual artist pieces went completely unsold, these 3 beauties got picked up for the scant price of over 25,000 US dollars. And the guy was like, wow, I felt something for a second there. I really like the watermark on this, by the way. Like, this is my painting done by a chimp. Anyway, next we have this beast called Washoe. Washoe was the first non-human creature to learn to communicate through sign language. That's right, eat shit, Coco. Prior experiments in chimp communication had attempted to teach him some basic spoken language, but after realizing that chimps are physically incapable of making most of the noises we do, they decided signing would be the better option. Washoe was raised in an environment similar to what a human child would experience, complete with toys, clothes, chores, and even being allowed to sit at the dinner table, in spite of what the Bible clearly says about that. The scientists raising Washoe made sure to only communicate in American Sign Language around her, in the hopes of establishing a true conversational rapport. Initially, they took a traditional Pavlovian approach by rewarding proper use of a new sign with food and tickles. But there were a couple problems with this. Firstly, the simple action reward setup meant that Washoe didn't have to really understand the words she was signing, the same way a parrot saying I love you in a YouTube video always does it with those cold, unfeeling eyes. Secondly, Washoe would break into a laughing fit whenever they tickled her, to the point where the lesson would be essentially over. So the researchers abandoned this and instead just let her learn through observation of her caretaker signing, with much better results even in the total absence of reward stimuli. And the only downside was that the job title of designated chimp tickler ceased to exist. In total, Washoe learned around 350
Why were they
individual
tickling the
signs
chimp?
in ASL.
I don't get
She'd
it.
even
What was
use
that? What was
these
the
to formulate
purpose of
novel
that?
phrases for new objects. Like one time she wanted to talk about a thermos but didn't know what a thermos was. She goes, metal
That's a
cup
reward?
drink.
Punishment?
Hey, scat! A similar story comes from a chimp named Lucy, who was raised by one Dr. Maurice Temerlin and his wife, Jane. The tale of Lucy's life is why this woman is now officially the third most famous woman named Jane who worked with apes. In the same vein as Washo, the pair attempted to gain some insight into Lucy's weird chimp noggin by raising her like you would a human.
That's
you
an
know,
achievement.
dressing herself, using silverware, making tea, looking at magazines, pretending she knows what a word is, all that jazz. But as Lucy matured, things took an ugly turn. For one, since she was brought up in a basically human environment, she eventually discovered the time-tested human pastime of alcohol. The pair would leave bottles of gin around their home with Lucy, which I don't know how you'd make this mistake twice, but it was apparently a common occurrence for them to leave her alone for too long and come back like, honey, I think the monkey's fucking wasted. Again. Another one of her hobbies was sculpting crude human heads out of poop. Her own poop, to be clear. They also left some copies of Playgirl magazine around for Lucy to flip through, which she became very fond of. So fond, in fact, that she was caught multiple times, having relations with the vacuum cleaner. I don't understand the mechanics of it, cause no source I found ever went into detail, and believe me, I wanted to know as much as you do. All I know is that, all things considered, some pretty exemplary tool use there. So the pair saw this and they were like, alright, we gotta get this chimp laid, and fast. But the problem was, Lucy was conversing with people, eating with people, flicking the old chimp bean to people. So it's not a stretch to think that Lucy thought she was people. So imagine you're people, and you get thrown into an enclosure with a full-grown, horny male chimp. You'd have a fucking panic attack. And that's just what Lucy did. As the years went on, Lucy got more and more violent, regularly trashing the place to get out the frustration of not being able to comprehend what was so fundamentally unnatural about her existence. Finally, the couple had had enough and decided to take Lucy to a primate rehabilitation center in the Gambia, with the hopes that she could be forced to acclimate to primate life. She could barely cope with it at first, getting real depressed and hardly associating with the other apes. Which you'd be depressed too if you had to give up a life of American luxury complete with booze and vacuum fornicating to go live with chimps in the wild. But with the help of a graduate student named Janice, Lucy eventually came to accept her fate, and although she'd never mate with another of her kind, she ended up getting along with her troop well enough. About a year after leaving the rehab center, Janice came back to visit, and Lucy gave her a warm embrace before waddling back to the rest of the chimps. Aww. Then
Wait,
Lucy...
it's a female monkey. How did she try and mate with a vacuum cleaner? If it's a female monkey. What?
She got poached like a fucking egg, which kind of puts a damper on the whole happy ending, but you know, whatever. So if there's one lesson to be gained from all this, it's that the best way to learn something
Suck
is to be
the
immersed
clit.
in it and
The
to make it
fuck?
part of you. While treats are good for making dogs do backflips, true comprehension comes from integrating new things into your daily life. And what better way to
You're
do that than with some
disgusting.
free audiobooks? Sponsor time. Listening to audiobooks inspires us, motivates us, even brings us closer. And there's no better place to listen than Audible. If you want something kind of like what I do, except actually funny and well informed, you should check out The Infinite Monkey Cage. Think Ricky Gervais.
Why did they try and experiment on chimps so much? Like not experiment, but test their cognitive functions and shit. I mean, we're the next stage, right? They're close to humans, yeah. But so what? I know they have like 98% or whatever shared DNA, which is the closest you can get to humans, but just take a 6-year-old kid, test his cognitive functions. It's like trying it on level 60 instead of a level 20 monkey. Like, what can we possibly gain from teaching monkeys sign languages? Like, what can we possibly gain for our species? I think people are just fucking bored. And they're like, oh, we're gonna go see how smart this monkey is, lol. For laughs and giggles. I don't think there's anything interesting coming out of it. The missing link in evolution. What missing link in evolution?
Welcome to Uganda.
Like why we are who we are and why chimps are why they are? Or who they are?
Welcome to Uganda.
We get documentaries. Oh well, that's nice. But so it's just for entertainment purposes, which is what I said. I mean, I do find it interesting to watch, but I don't see how science finds it interesting, really. Really. Fair and Redux. A rusty fire.